Welcome to the crochet tutorial with Cosy Rosie UK, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can make your very own not your normal headband. So this headband makes the most of the blank headbands that we can purchase to create a really modern knotted crochet headband. It's really super comfy to wear because we stitch around the bottoms of where it sits behind our ears. This headband's super comfy to wear because it sits nicely behind our ears and it's cushioned with our crochet fabric that we're going to create. So before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and of course the notification bell so that you never miss out on one of my crochet tutorials again. Let's find out what materials we need to make our very own not your normal headband. You're going to need about 120 meters of a worsted weight cotton or cotton blend. I'm going to be using this Rico Creative cotton, which is colour coated. It is a 50% cotton blended with 50% acrylic, and this shade is my absolute favourite. It is called Pastel Mix, so shade number 3, and I just love how these colours work up. So for this pattern, I'm going to use less than this whole ball of creative cotton, and you'll need about, as I said, 120 meters. For the hook size, we're going to be using a 4mm crochet hook. I'm using my dark colour crochet hook because it shows up against this yarn so well. You're also going to need a headband blank. Now this is one that I sell in my Etsy shop, so you can purchase this exact headband. It has a faux suede lining on the inside and has a light sheen on the black fabric. So this total length of this headband, which is designed for adults but can be worn by children once you've put the fabric on it, measures about 36 centimeters, which is just under 14 inches the whole way around. And it's about 2.5 centimeters in width at the widest point. So about 1 inch wide as well. Now you may have found that you've got a headband that you've grown, it's no longer in favour, but it's covered in a fabric or it's got some padding on it. You can just take that off, and then underneath there should be a headband blank that you can reuse. Otherwise you can head over to the link in the description box to my Etsy shop and pick up this exact satin headband. You're also going to need a darning needle because we are going to sew closed the fabric around the ends of this headband, and that will help keep it both securely in place and give you some protection whilst you're wearing it for long periods of time without it digging into the sides of your head. So gather all of those materials and let's get started. So to get started on this pattern, we're going to first of all make a slip knot, placing that working yarn behind a loop we've created and just pulling and popping that slip knot onto our hook. We're going to start by making a chain of 76. So we yarn over the hook, bring it through the loop on our hook to create our chains, and then we're going to do that chain of a total of 76. That's 3, 4. So once we have our chain of 76, don't worry, this is supposed to be longer than the total length of your headband because it will shrink in as we start working our first row. So for row 1, we're going to work 1 half double crochet into the second chain from hook and into each chain across. So the loop on our hook does not count as a stitch, and neither does that first chain. We're going to work into that second chain. So we yarn over the hook, insert our hook under the top loop of our chain, yarn over to bring our loop up, then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on our hook. And we're going to repeat that the whole way down our chain. So this hole here we need to ignore. There's our second chain, our next chain. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook under that first loop, yarn over, bring our loop up, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Repeat that again. So we yarn over the hook, insert under that top loop, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Just going to continue working into each chain all the way down back to our slip knot, working 1 half double crochet, that's a US half double crochet, into each chain along, and I'll meet you at the end of row 1. So at the end of row 1, you should have a stitch count of 75 half double crochets, and we're going to go straight into row 2, and we're going to start row 2 by chaining 1. Now your chain 1 here does not count as a stitch, and that's throughout the pattern. So we're going to work directly into that next stitch. And just like we did in row 1, we're going to work 1 half double crochet into the next stitch and into each stitch across. So for row 2, we do that turning chain of 1 that does not count as a stitch, and then we work 1 half double crochet into each stitch across. And now we're going to repeat row 2 for a total of 14 rows. So we're going to do row 2 12 more times after this one, and that's going to give us the total width that we need to cover our headband, but it's doubled. We're going to make this super soft and super squishy, and the reason behind this is we're going to double over the fabric so that you can't see the colour of the headband through the fabric, and also it makes our knot in the top super chunky. So complete row 2 and then repeat it, so until you have a total of 14 rows. So remember, for row 2 we started with a chain 1, and then we worked 1 half double crochet into each stitch across, and we're going to repeat that 12 times for a total of 14 rows. Once you've done your 14 rows, come back and we can get the seaming done, ready to add to our headband blank. Now if you need to, you can check the written pattern that you can find linked in the description box below, and you can find the printable pattern or the links for the printable pattern in that blog post too. So keep going until you've completed your 14 rows, and then I'll meet you back ready for seaming and finishing off. So once you've completed your 14 rows, we're going to fold this panel in half. Just before we do that, we're going to do a chain 1 and turn our work, and then we can fold it, because we're going to bring this edge up to this edge here and then just fold it the whole way down the length. Now the reason that we're doing this is we're going to work between the 2 edges to sew them or join them together using single crochet. So once you've worked your chain 1, you can insert your hook under the first stitch of your panel and then into the corresponding first chain of where we originally started our pattern. We're going to yarn over, bring our loop up, yarn over and pull through 2. And we're just going to repeat this the whole way down our project, working through both sides of our panel, so the front and the back, excusing the church bells. And that's going to join these 2 sides together and create a really nice long tube. So it's going to give us double the thickness of our fabric. So continue to work all the way down your panel, working through both sides and joining them together, and then we're going to be ready to sew up our ends. So once you have completed your joining of your panel, you'll have a nice row of single crochets all the way down. And at this point we can fasten off. We're going to leave a longer thread here so we can use that for sewing up. So grab your scissors and snip that yarn. And then once you've fastened off or snipped your yarn, you can just use your hook to bring that thread all the way through your loop to create a nice knot. We are done with our crochet hooks. And now we need our needles. So we're going to kind of fold, at this point we're going to fold it in 3, so you create almost, so you're folding the edges into the middle to create a pocket. This is why I've left a little strand here. I'm going to thread that onto my needle. Then refold. Doesn't matter which way you do it, because we've folded it in half, both sides are now the right side. So we're going to fold this edge into the middle and then fold that edge into the middle, And then just to secure them, I'm going to make sure they're kind of lying flat against each other. I suppose you could call it butted into each other as opposed to on top of each other, because this is what's going to sit at the back of your ear. And I'm quite literally going to shove my needle back through where I fastened off, right the way through all that fabric. And then I'm going to come back through to catch this other fold. And that would just secure that fold initially, working my way back through again. And then we have the start of our pocket. To make things super neat, you can weave through all the ends, either in a whip stitch, whichever you're most happy with, just to keep it super neat. So kind of working over the stitches, making sure you're always working through all the edges. And it will just make that edging a little bit neater and kind of securing it all in together. And then make your way back to the middle, because now we're going to sew these two edges together to create the pocket. I'm just going to come back up through the middle here. That end is in the way. So making sure that you've folded, you try to check the colour that you've got. And we're going to weave through where our single crochets are and then through that other edge to bring them together. And we're going to do this in a whip stitch. That end is really getting in my way. There we go. And working through both sides of the headband. And you can do this as deep as you would like it. Don't go all the way round, because what's going to happen is with our headbands, we're just going to pop that straight into that middle of the pocket we've just created. And then our fabric is going to wrap over the rest of the headband. So I'm going to go up a few more stitches. You want this nice and tight as well. So once you've sewn a few, give it a tug. And just keep working your way up until you're happy with the pocket depth you've created. It's probably more than enough for me. Give that a nice tight pull. And then once you're happy with how deep you've gone, you can create a knot. Nice tight knot to fasten that. Don't worry about weaving your ends in at this point, because we're going to do a nice nifty trick and turn it all inside out. So once you're happy with that knot, you can cut off your yarn. So I'm going to repeat this on the other end. I'm just going to get some more yarn and then thread that through. I'm going to make sure that I've got my pocket this side, so I know I need to fold in the same way. So I don't want to put my pocket on the other side. So there's my pocket, making sure that the opening is facing me. I'm going to go up to the other end and I'm ready to refold. I'm going to start by kind of just weaving that in. I haven't secured that yet. I just want to go round to the other side with a whip stitch to kind of bring those two ends together. I'm just going to tie a knot to secure that end. Nice double knot there. And that just starts our pocket off. And I'm going to repeat what we did on the other end. So start by whip stitching over the ends to neaten them. And get really annoyed with these ends again. Working my way back across again. So that all of that is nice and neatly tucked in. start creating the pocket on the other side. Make my way back to the middle, come back out, so that we can then create a corresponding pocket on this side. Just going to make sure I've got the right edge, so I've folded all the way. So I've got that going to the middle, there we go, and then just bring those two edges together so I know where I'm working my needle through. And then I'm just going to whip stitch as deep as I did on the other side, working through those stitches and the end of the row where that fold is. I'm going to make sure that I've got the same depth on each end because we like to correspond. And when I'm happy that that's all nice and tight, once again I can make a knot to secure those edges, and then that's that end secured. I'm going to push through from the other end so that all my sewing is on the inside of my project. See how neat that end looks now? I'll do the same on the other end. There we go. And at this point, all that's left to do is to tie a knot. So I'm literally going to bring one side around and gently kind of tease that into place as to where I want it, making sure that the openings are still facing the same way, because this is going to be the top of our project. We want the actual knot at the top. So just kind of play around with that. And then as you tighten it, it should stay in the middle. We can snip these ends off or weave them in if we want to. And then to place the headband in, you go under this middle flat surface to kind of help keep that in place. Then you can tighten that. And then you simply place the ends of your headband in. This is the tight one. There we go. And then once that's in place, you can just position your knot and loosen and tighten so that you've got that whole headband covered. And you've just completed your not your normal headband. I'm going to weave my ends in so it's ready to wear. But I really hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial and that you've completed your own not your normal headband. Of course, you can sew up further up the side if you wanted to, but I like to have the extra width across my head with this fabulous knotted headband. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed making this crochet pattern, and of course hit the subscribe button so that you never miss out on another one of my crochet tutorials again.